lecture before repetition? You told Yaakov, right? Yaakov. Vamos nos sentar, vamos ouvir agora a palestra do Michael, para ganharmos consciência para a leitura da Torá.
Shabbat Shalom, it's great to be here. I'm just ready for all our friends with so many of our friends from Los Angeles and from all over the world. Yes, you can clap for all of our friends from all over the world. Yes, very excited to be with all of you. This is a very important and significant Shabbat. It's the only Shabbat of the year that is called Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat. So even before we learn any of the secrets of what is available to us on this Shabbat, we need to come in with the consciousness that something great is going to happen to us on this Shabbat. It is the Great Shabbat, and I know that we underscore this all the time, but what I am desiring to experience, what I'm asking for today, is not for wisdom. Wisdom is important, information, secrets. The two ideas we're going to share today are experiences that we need and we want to have today on this great Shabbat. And it is the power of what we are going to ask for and hopefully receive and experience that's going to take us into the power of this evening so that we can become completely transformed. So the first idea is a beautiful idea from a great Kabbalist, a friend of Rav Ashlag. His name is Rav Kook. And he points out that in the entire story of the Exodus from Egypt, there are two central forces that we need to understand and connect to and understand what they are meant to give to us, especially today on the Great Shabbat. On the one hand, throughout the story, there is a constant mention of Yado Hagdolah, the great, it's called the great hand of the Creator, that facilitated, that manifested the great miracles that occurred thousands of years ago when the Israelites exited Egypt. But maybe more importantly, there's a second part of that force that is spoken about. Uzro'o hanetuya, the outstretched hand. The great hand has acted. The outstretched hand is waiting to act. So the right hand that awakened all the light, yes, that occurred thousands of years ago, that is available to us tonight. But in truth, the force that we want to connect to on this Shabbat is Zroa Netuya. As it's referred to as the outstretched hand of the Creator that is going to continue the revelation of Pesach, the revelation from thousands of years ago. And it's important to understand the secret of these two, and more importantly, what it's going to do to me and to you and to all of us this day. So I want to read the words. We know whenever we read words from a great Kabbalist, it awakens not only the wisdom and understanding, but the light within these words. So we're going to read a few of these words from Rav Kook, the great Kabbalist and friend of Rav Ashlag. So first of all, he points out something we know Kabbalistically. Yetziat Mitzrayim, what happened thousands of years ago when the Israelites exited Egypt. Only if you have no eyes, no spiritual eyes, only if you look at history and the story of humanity as a physical story do you think that it ended then. Something great happened then and ended then. Even, he says, if that were true, you have to understand, and it's important that from the physical history you begin to understand the spiritual forces at work. That occurrence thousands of years ago was the singular occurrence. We know the Israelites left Egypt, they came to Sinai, the revelation at Sinai. That occurrence, of course, transformed the history of humanity. Unless that had happened, unless the gates, and this is really the point, were open, because we know at the seed everything that came afterwards. We will learn in a few minutes the deeper transformation that we all want to go through and that the Israelites went through, but on a very macro level. It was that occurrence that transformed humanity. Up until that point, the concept of connecting to the light of the Creator was unknown, unknowable, and untouchable. It was only the great gates of light that were awakened on Pesach that enabled all that came afterwards. Yes, Sinai, yes, the Israelites, but then also all the world's religions, Christianity and Islam, all came from where? They came from Sinai. So the entire force of humanity, having a concept even, forget about the actualization of a deep connection to the light of the Creator. When did that happen? It happened on Pesach. Which means that at the root of Pesach is, yes, the original opening up of the gates of knowledge, wisdom, and connection to the light of the Creator that were inaccessible and unknowable to all of humanity. And therefore we're going to say this evening, V'ilu lo tziyanu mimitzrayim, and if the Creator would not have opened up the gates then for the world, because the gates were not open for the Israelites alone, it was a history transformation. Had that not happened in that moment, we would all be slaves to the physical. So what happens on Pesach and the preparation on this Shabbat, and therefore it's a great Shabbat, is to understand what happened then. It wasn't even in a spiritual level that 3 million people came out of darkness into light. No. The secret of Pesach, the gift of Pesach, the gift of today into tonight, is that the Creator said, I'm going to open up the gates so wide of secrets, of understanding, of connection, so that humanity will be able to begin a process. It might take thousands of years, but the seed of it, the gates opening, was when it was on this day, today into tonight. The Creator says, this is the time that the wave of consciousness, of understanding, of knowing that I and you and each one of us and our entire world can connect to the endless light of the Creator, and we can transform our world, and we can remove all pain, suffering, and death. This is the day. So the Yad HaGdolah, when we talk about the great hand, what are we talking about? We're talking about connecting me and you now into that unique, historical, spiritual opening of all the gates. Many of you know, and the Kabbalists speak about this at length, that there are certain times in human history when gates are opened. We have it when the Zohar was revealed, as the great Kabbalist Rabbi Avraham Azulai tells us, and other times when gates were open. But all of those, even Sinai, pale in comparison to the opening of the gates of Pesach. Because Pesach had to hold not just 3 million people coming to connection, not just the opening for humanity over time, it had to hold within it the pathway for each individual soul for the rest, from the beginning of time to the end of time, to come to complete connection to the light of the Creator. Think about that for a moment. We often make the mistake of even if we understand the secrets of Pesach, of Passover, yes, freedom, yes, individually, collectively being able to become free of the illusion, but it's much deeper than that. It was the one time, this is the time, where the gates were needed to be opened so wide for every single soul, for all of history, to be able to have their pathway, meaning, B'ezrat Hashem, we end the process quickly and the world is transformed, but if it takes another 100 years or 500 years, however long it takes, the process of every single soul coming to connection to the light of the Creator, coming to understanding the light of the Creator, is opened today. was opened 3,000 years ago today and is reopened today. Yad HaGdolah. This is the secret of the great hand, the great opening of the gates that occurs only on this time. If you understand this, you begin to understand, oh my God, what's available to us today. Individually, collectively, for humanity. There's no other time of the year that I can connect in truth, in power, to my soul's journey to complete reunification with the light of the Creator, and for humanity to be able to be awakened in a more powerful way, in a quicker way, to the pathway of connection to the light of the Creator. So the Yad HaChazakah, as it's referred to, he says, is the opening of the gates. But then there's the Zoa HaNetuyah, there's the outstretched hand, where every single year the Creator is looking to humanity and saying, grab my outstretched hand and do the completion of the work of what was opened by my great hand, by my Yad HaGdolah on Pesach. This is our responsibility today into tonight. To grab the Zoa HaNetuyah, to grab the outstretched hand of the Creator, to complete the revelation that began with the Yad HaGdolah, with the great hand on Pesach. Now we can understand why this Shabbat is so important, why it's Shabbat HaGadol, it's the greatest Shabbat, because there's nothing else like this ever. And this is what's available, and this is our responsibility to grab. And I want to read a few more words. By those who grab the outstretched hand of the light of the Creator today, that is giving us the power to complete our individual journey, but much more important than that, and much greater than that, our ability to be a part of bringing all of humanity to that complete revelation. We call upon the great lights to shine in all the dark places of our world, and all the people who are still in darkness in our world. The great hand, meaning the great power of the light of the Creator to transform individuals and even collectives, is revealed. He netuya ve'omedet b'hachanat hamshachat pe'ulata be'ein hefsek ve'afra. That is what is prepared and revealed on Pesach to complete its process. This is, people make fun of me at this point when I say this is the most exciting day of the year. The most exciting day of the year. What is available? And I'll just end this first teaching with beautiful words from Rav Kook. He says, Lachen, therefore you can understand, and I want all of us to feel this and experience this now and today into tonight. Yetziat Yisrael mimitzrayim, the Israelites' journey out of Egypt, more importantly, the Yad HaGdolah, the great light of the Creator that was revealed, that allowed the Israelites to exit that darkness, Tisha'er la'ad, will remain forever and shine forever. Ha'aviv shel kol ha'olam kulo, the spring of the entire humanity. Because what occurred in Egypt was the opening of the gates for all of humanity to come to know and come to connect and come to remove all darkness and pain and suffering and death. Tisha'er la'ad, that's why again, the world gets excited even in physical levels in the spring, but we understand the deep spiritual source of that. And this is our responsibility, those of us who know and those of us who understand. So the first consciousness that I want all of us to be grabbing is the understanding that what was the Yad HaGdolah, what was the great power of the Creator revealed on Pesach, it was not just an opening and not just helping 3 million Israelites, it was opening the gates so powerfully wide, and like no other time in the year, like no other time in human history, to prepare the individual and collective paths for every single soul that ever existed and ever will exist. to come to know and to connect and to transform. Tishaer la'ad le'aviv ha'olam. Therefore, this time, this day, remains forever as the spring, but the spiritual spring of all of humanity. And that's our responsibility, to understand the gates, how wide they must be opened today, into tonight, and how much we have to be grabbing with our consciousness and excitement and connection. For ourselves, yes, but more importantly, to grab the Zohar HaNetuyah, the outstretched hand of the Creator, to complete the revelation of what is open to us on this day. Again, I hope I explained it well enough, but if you understand this, you can't be more, there's no other day you can be more excited than today, and grab in consciousness and desire and excitement. But I also want to touch upon, which is connected, an individual request I am asking for, and we should all be asking for. There's a great teaching from the Ramban, the great Kabbalist Nachmanides, whose death anniversary was just a few days ago. And this again might be, it's fundamental, it's a relatively lengthy teaching. We'll touch upon 2 or 3 of the points. On an individual level, and certainly as it take it then to the collective level, what was the purpose of Egypt, of going out of Egypt? What is the purpose of Pesach? We spoke a minute ago that it's about opening up the gates of connection and understanding to the entire world. But what transformation does the individual go through as we enter into Pesach and ask for? And if we ask the fundamental question, what was the purpose of going out of Egypt? He goes through the history of humanity, that throughout history people had some consciousness and lost some consciousness, understood a connection to the light of the Creator and lost their connection to the light of the Creator. The entire purpose of going out of Egypt, the entire purpose of everything we're doing today into tonight, and in truth, he says, the entire purpose of every spiritual action you ever do is only one thing. Every spiritual action you ever do is only for one purpose, for one consciousness. Leman teda, as it says in the story of going out of Egypt, so that you should know, ki ani Hashem bekerev haaretz. We speak about this all the time, but that I, the light of the Creator, is all that there is everywhere all the time. Leman teda, so that you should know, ki en kamoni bechol haaretz, that there's no other force, there's no other power, there's no other reality than the light of the Creator. And he says, in everything that happened, it's important to have this clarity today into tonight, everything that happened in Egypt and everything that happened, all the spiritual tools, 613 mitzvot as they're referred to, everything is only for one purpose, to grow in our certainty that everything is only the light of the Creator. I'm always reticent to say those words because we've all heard those words. But hearing the words is almost, and even saying them is almost meaningless. The question is, what does your life say? As you go through life, every moment, every hour, every day, what is your life? What's the story that it's telling? And the truth is, most of us, if we're honest, and it's important to know the darkness before the light, nehora migo chashucha, darkness out of light. The majority of our life is telling a story of complete lack of certainty. And to clarify that, I'll just read one more phrase, and I've taught this before, we've shared this before, but this is the time to beg for this. This is the time to understand that we can no longer continue with our previous consciousness. We thought maybe we're connected in some way to certainty. The Ramban says the following. Ein la'adam chelek betorat Moshe Rabbeinu. A person has no connection, not even he's not very connected. If we asked all of us, how connected, how much certainty do you have? I'd say 30%, 50%. Well, some days 80, some days, right? Things are going the way I want them to go, 80%, 90%. When they're not going the way I want them to 20%, 10%, 0% sometimes. The Ramban says you're living, most people are living within this realm called the world of lies, with no certainty. Ein lo chelek, not even connected. Ad shena'amin, until you have certainty, and certainty isn't here, it's your experience. Bechol devareinu umikreinu, and every single thing that happens to us, shekulam nisim, that they are, every single one of them, a miracle, miraculous. Ein bahem teva uminago shel olam, and none of them are natural or in the normal ways of things. The Ramban here lays a question. And I want all of us to ask ourselves that question. On the one hand, unless you have this unless you live with this consciousness, ein lo chelek, the person's completely disconnected. Shinamin, we have to know when you woke up this morning, right, and you took a step, right? This is how detailed. That step was a miracle. We know these concepts, right? But experience. Let's take the negative ones. I heard two interesting stories which I thought were related. There's a man who tells his friend, I had my wallet in my pocket, and I had $2,000 in my pocket, and I didn't realize I had a hole, and the wallet fell out, and I can't believe I had that hole, and I lost the $2,000. And the guy was a little bit more conscious. He says, "You idiot." He says, "You had to lose the $2,000. That's why you had a hole, right? We blame the hole for the loss. I'm saying the loss had to happen." A deeper story. This man was telling his spiritual teacher that this is somebody who lives outside of the United States. He came to the United States and he had a medical emergency. And he had to go to the hospital, and he had to be there for 2 or 3 days. And because he didn't have insurance, he had to pay $30,000. So he comes to his spiritual teacher. He says, "I don't understand why the Creator did this to me." He says, "Had I been in my home city, I have insurance, this would have cost me nothing. Just one day, if I had that medical emergency one day earlier," right? So his teacher tells him something very important. He says, "You don't understand. You had to lose $30,000. In a medical, your soul, you needed to go through a process, through something medical, it had to lose $30,000. Imagine how long it would have taken you in your home city to spend $30,000 on medical bills. It would have taken you years, chas v'shalom. You would have been in hospitals and doctors years and years and years until you finally spent the $30,000. Here, Baruch Hashem, thanks to the Creator, you came here and in 1 second you solved your problem." But I share these stories to illustrate to all of us how far we are from actually living in connection with the light of the Creator. The entire purpose of today and tonight is only one thing. And I want all of us to understand how different we need to become. We need a miracle, right? Really. Think about this week. How many times did something happen that you didn't want to happen, big or small, and you were upset? Well, what does Nachmanides tell us about not that individual? Ein lo chelek betorat Moshe. That person has no connection to the light of the Creator and to the spiritual path. It's a harsh statement. We're all guilty. But let's not keep the lie by going into tonight saying, "I want to have more certainty when I finish this evening," or this day's connection. What do I want? What do we desperately need? This is what we desperately need. And I'm going to read these words again because I hope many things, but I hope that we realize how far we are from true spiritual living, true connection to the light of the Creator, and that today and tonight, tomorrow is the miracle what is the miracle that we want? What is the entire purpose? That we are transformed into this consciousness. And I'll read it again. Na'amin bechol devareinu umikreinu, every single thing that happens to us. Shekulam nisim ubein bahem teva, that they're all miracles from the light of the Creator, and there is nothing natural about any part of our life. I want to explain this. This deserves a lengthier explanation, but when something happens that we didn't want to happen, and we get upset about it, we don't live in the consciousness of this is from the light of the Creator, it's only for my good. We are lowering ourselves or keeping ourselves in the world, the Kabbalah is called the world of lies, the illusionary physical world. And even in the moments when we feel connection, it's just a drop from the real world coming into the false world. When an individual works, but we need a miracle. Hopefully we understand we need a miracle tonight, and this is the miracle we're asking for. When an individual goes through life and sees every occurrence, every single occurrence, the good and what others think are not so good, as only the light of the Creator and only for my benefit, that person is living in a different world. He or she is living in the true reality. That's where we need to live. Not in the illusionary world, in the false world, and bring droplets of, call it consciousness, I'm not even sure you can call it droplets of whatever, of light into this reality. That's not why we're here. We need to live in a different realm. And you can't live in that, you can't access that different realm unless na'amin bechol mikreinu udvareinu she'en bahem teva, that there is nothing natural about anything that is happening to me. It is all divinely designed for my benefit. Every single aspect. Only an individual who is fighting for that consciousness, who gains it, is living in reality. You know, I often think about this idea, and it's hopefully give us some understanding. This week when something happened that you didn't want to happen and you got upset. Who was getting upset? Was your soul getting upset? No, your soul was so excited. It knew exactly why this had to happen. It was so excited. It was so appreciative. It was having the happiest moment of its existence in that day. The body, and who are you aligning with? But your body was upset. The mind was upset. Where are you living? What's your reality? Your soul's reality or the physical reality? Your body's... We're all living there. No matter how, again, this is not to diminish all the great spiritual work and study. It's all beautiful. Everything we've done in 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 100 years we've been studying. But that's not where we need to be going. We need to start living in a different reality, in a reality where it actually is my truth. My soul's experience that everything is a miracle, everything is a part of the divine, perfect process for my benefit, and that not to know, to experience as truth. What a miracle we need, right? What a miracle every single one of us needs. That's the bad news, right? But the good news is that miracle is available to us today and to tonight. If you desperately desire it, if you desperately understand, I must, what am I doing in this? What am I doing here? To live 120 years of the physical? I'm in this world to live however long it takes me into the true realm. The realm of the soul, the realm of the light of the Creator, the realm of truth. And that's what's available to those who desperately desire it and understand that I have to stop living my life as the lie of the physical reality. Ein lo chelek, a person who is not at least endeavoring and begging the light of the Creator to elevate my consciousness to this realm today and to tonight when it's available, is not really connected, is not really on the true spiritual path. So, what is available to us today, the greatest gift that we can ever receive. And this is what I'm asking for. I think most of us know, as I said, it makes me so happy to see so many of our friends from all over the world, and of course, all of our friends who are streaming. We didn't come here to have a powerful spiritual experience. We didn't come here to connect to the light. We came here to be completely transformed. And what is the transformation we're asking for? This is possible. That through my connection today and tonight, suddenly, all these teachings that I hear are going to become my reality. And I will see in every moment and every step and every occurrence only the light of the Creator, only the divine plan for the elevation of my soul in joy and in happiness. That's the transformation that's available to us today. Shabbat HaGadol. Now we understand why it's such a great Shabbat. Because the opportunity of the gifts that are available are so great, but the desire must be commensurate, must be great as well. Are you desperately in need of this transformation? And to the degree that we are going to receive it, the gift. V'hasienu et birkat mo'adenu. We say this in the connection tomorrow. Pour upon me, shower upon every single one of us the blessings of these connections. What is the blessing of the connection of today into tonight? One thing. Leman yid'u, to know and to experience and to live a life in truth, which means one thing: everything from the greatest to the smallest, ein bahem teva, there is nothing natural, there are no coincidence, everything is part of the divine plan from the light of the Creator for the benefit of my soul. Not to know it, knowing in the mind means nothing, experiencing it completely every second of our lives. I hope I explained well enough these two unbelievable gifts that are available to us, to all of humanity, but those of us who have more conscience and joy, not only for ourselves, but for others, so that we awaken a true and desperate desire for these two gifts, for the gates that are open for all of humanity, as we said before, and for the awakening of individual certainty, experienced, not known, but experienced, and that we are completely transformed by the great Shabbat and the power of Pesach. Shabbat Shalom.
We're going for repetition, right? We don't have...